Over in women's college hoops, to little surprise, 32-0 South Carolina is your #1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament for the 4th straight season. The other 1 seeds include Clayton Clark in Iowa, Texas, and USC. The women's NCAA tournament will get started with the first 4 on Wednesday. If you ask Vegas how they think it will all play out, it's South Carolina who is the heavy favorite. Don Staley's team sitting at -135, far and away the shortest odds, coming in ahead of Iowa, who's at +700. They're followed by the defending champs, LSU. Not as much love for USC, who, despite being a 1 seed, they sit at 36-1 with their odds. Your eyes are not deceiving you. We are now welcoming in the 2-time NCAA champion and 2-time most outstanding player of the tournament, Candace Parker. Candace, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. First, before we get into this season's bracket, because I know you're ready for it, I know you have that perfect formula, I want to go back and talk about the times when you dominated in college. What was your NCAA tournament experience like?
NCAA in March is just what every player waits for. I mean, it literally is my favorite time of year. It was my favorite time of year then. It's just magical. You can't explain it. You win, you advance. All you got to do is win by 1 point. You obviously want to be on the other side of the buzzer beaters, but it was just one of those times that was just magical and you dream of when you're a kid.
Those pictures we're showing of back when you won back-to-back titles with Tennessee certainly still have to be fresh in the memory bank for you and your Tennessee squad. Lady Vols, only D1 team to make every NCAA tournament. They're a 6th seed this year, taking on Green Bay in the first round. What's your outlook for your alma mater? Do you have on like the goggles still where you can take them away and be like, okay, maybe Tennessee, we're here, we're there? How do you feel about your squad?
Listen, Tennessee made huge strides throughout this year. It was an up and down year, and a lot of it was because of health. I mean, you think about Rakia Jackson being out for a significant amount of time, but the last regular season game against South Carolina at South Carolina in the SEC tournament, where we got our hearts broken on a last-second 3 to win the game to go to the championship by South Carolina. If you're playing the #1 team in the country like that, you got a shot. So I just hope Tennessee packs their defense, packs a little offense, and has a little fun in March.
So you bring up that SEC tournament game between Tennessee and South Carolina. I'm sure by now most folks have seen the picture out there with your Aces teammate, Asia Wilson, on FaceTime after Camila Cardoso did that and hit that 3 at the buzzer. Before I ask you about South Carolina and their outlook, what was this moment like, watching it and seeing it all unfold?
This is what March is. I call it March misery sometimes, because this right here, you work so hard, you do everything perfect, and then you have someone that has not hit a 3 in their entire career catch the ball and knock it down, and that's what March is. We've been on the winning side of a lot of those, but I called my teammate to actually talk noise because we were up, and then we were actually on FaceTime when the shot went in. So yeah, things like that happen. I learned not to call until the score is final and the clock says 0-0.
Lessons we can all learn in March. That humble pie coming in heavy right there. You look at South Carolina, undefeated. They've been able to win every single time they put it out there on the floor. What are your thoughts and your feels about how dominant they've been so far this season?
South Carolina has been so dominant, and to basically lose, the #1 draft pick in Aaliyah Boston. You talk about Zaya Cook. For that team to then go undefeated after losing the seniors and the draft picks that they lost is phenomenal. It just speaks to next man up mentality. It speaks to just what Don Staley has built at South Carolina, and it speaks to them stepping into being a powerhouse program. I think it's going to be phenomenal, this NCAA tournament. And listen, get your popcorn ready. It's not going to be easy for South Carolina, but I think they do it.
What I love about this year's tournament, there's so many different storylines. You have that dominant South Carolina team. Then you have also in the SEC, LSU, who, of course, are the defending champs. You won back-to-back, so you know what it's like. What will it take for the Tigers to make it back to the championship game and win it all?
Every year's a new year, and you got to look at it that way. The things that you did last year aren't going to work this year. You have to constantly kind of reinvent what you need to do game to game. Some games going to be slow pace, and you're going to have to grind it out and low scoring and depend on your defense. Sometimes you're going to have to throw it to your shot makers and depend on offense. And I think that's the biggest thing is in March, you're going to have to kind of change the way you play because each conference kind of plays their certain way. And when you get in the NCAA tournament, sometimes there's bad matchups, and you just have to figure out a way to win.
There will be tons of eyes on South Carolina, tons of eyes on LSU, but probably even more eyes on Caitlin Clark because obviously she is the most popular collegiate basketball player all across NCAA. Iowa hoping to make a run this year in her last go-round. Do you think Caitlin Clark will be able to lead them deep into the tournament?
Well, listen, my parents both went to Iowa, so I've been Hawkeyes since before I could dribble a basketball. Iowa has definitely, as a community, wrapped their arms around Caitlin Clark. She's been just a superstar, and I hope, for the sake of women's basketball, that she's at the Final Four and can get over that hump. Anytime you have a shot maker and a dominant player like Caitlin Clark in March, you always give yourself a chance.
So with that in mind, the chances are now time to make the prediction. Who do you think will win the tournament? And first, who will be in the Final Four?
Well, first, I do want to say that it's unbelievable, especially in the last couple of years, how many people are filling out men's and women's brackets. And, you know, I partner with AT&T, and to be able to continue to promote the women's game, support the women's game, it's been phenomenal how many extra and more brackets are being filled out on the women's side this year. So I just want to say that everybody, if you only filled out your men's bracket, got to grab your women's, fill it out, take your pick. It's going to be heartbreak, but, you know, it's it's better that way. But listen, expert picks usually are wrong.
Right.
I'll give you that in March. That's the tip. So I'm going to say I'm not an expert pick. So, you know, don't go with me if you have your own. But I would say this year is kind of a number one, Final Four. So I have USC, Texas, I have South Carolina, and I have, what am I missing? USC, Texas, South Carolina, and Iowa as my Final Four, and I have South Carolina winning.
Okay, South Carolina winning it all, cutting down the nets. I like the star power that you're going for. Candace Parker, she is a star. She's not an expert, but she still knows how to pick them up as well. And as long as you get the bracket in time, that's all that matters. Thank you so much for the time, Candace. Really appreciate it. And you can get even more bracket flair online at cbssports.com for brackets games where we have the men and women's brackets. Like Candace said, make sure you fill out both of them because you can get a better chance to even win because you have 2 times the opportunity. Head online, cbssports.com/bracket for all the fun.